Hey guys, Kyle here. So, just before the show starts, I wanted to mention our Patreon. You can pay us $1 a month as a thank you, as a tip. You can pay $2 a month to get access to one of our bonus content shows, episodes 2 days early, and a secret Discord chat where all of our Patreon donors get to go and hang out and talk with us directly. Then there's a $5 tier that you can donate to get access to a whole bunch more content. We have multiple bonus episodes on there. So please check it out. Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We don't advertise, we don't make money. So check it out and throw some money if you think that would be cool. Thanks.
Welcome to It Gets Weird, our comedy show where we explore the unusual, unbelievable, and the unexplained to try to make your world a little weirder. I'm Nile.
And I'm Kyle. And I wanted to kind of apologize right off the bat. Really set the tone. Got to get off on a good start here with the episode. I apologize if I'm sounding a little off this episode, Nile. Listeners at home, all of my precious vital organs have been replaced with various kinds of bees.
Yeah.
Hornets and wasps and different kinds of insects of that nature, and it's been challenging.
And somehow even the bee girl from the from that one music video of No Rain by Blind Melon is in there somehow.
She's in there. She replaced my spleen.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's going on with me. And so it's just kind of like interrupting my flow, my mental a little bit. So, right up front, I apologize about the bee organ issue.
Yeah. So, on that note, let's go ahead and just launch into it because I don't have any other. My organs are still intact. I didn't do anything with them. I didn't swap them out for any sort of other living creature.
We could try something.
We could.
What are you open to a type of mammal?
I would look into it. Yeah.
Okay. I'll check out and see how that procedure looks.
Yeah, look into some options for me and we can figure this out.
I cannot recommend bees.
Good to know. How about, can you recommend maybe another alien primer? Do you want to do another alien primer?
I always want to do an alien primer. Now, I'm curious because I feel like I've heard and seen it all with these aliens. What could you possibly show me that I have not heard of, experienced, witnessed? Tell me.
Well, Kyle, are you familiar with the Arcturians?
I actually have heard the name.
Yeah. A lot of times said in the same phrase as bringers of light, or a lot of like light talk with them, because it gets this one is going to much. I feel like every time I do an alien primer, it'll be like, here's like the main thing, and then at the end we just get into the Starseed lore.
Oh yeah,
because this one comes by the Starseed lore honestly, and we'll get into why here in a little bit. But it is interesting looking at this stuff because there's such. Starseed stuff is fascinating to me. I know I talked about it. Like I use that as kind of a catch-all for this thing, but like there is this whole world of alien lore that like is entirely unlinked with the rest of it. Like it'll take things at will from the larger world of alien lore, but then make their own entire own separate thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that is something that I've picked up about a lot of. It's like I feel like as soon as you start talking about energies, you enter into a different domain of alien conspiracy theory, right? Like, yeah, like generally,
kind of. But there's also like there's like a subsection of the main lore that deals with like hyperdimensional and like extra dimensional beings that isn't starseeds, or light bringers or whatever, light workers. But then they also use a lot of that terminology as well. So like it's this like miasma of like it's a spectrum. It's a spectrum between looking at aliens from a conspiratorial or quote unquote scientific point of view, all the way over to looking at it in a new agey kind of spiritualistic point of view.
Right.
And everything happens in between that. There's no hard line. But these ones do fall a bit more into the spiritualism realm because of where it started. And we will get into that here shortly.
Spiritualism?
Kind of.
Okay.
Because of where the Arcturians were first. I don't know if this is the explicit first place that they were ever mentioned, but this is the first one of the major people that kind of brought about the Arcturians as a concept to the world. And that we're going to start with a man named Edgar Cayce.
Ooh, I know that name. You're going to tell me who this is, but that name is very familiar.
He was an American clairvoyant who lived from the late 1870s to 1945.
This is why I know him.
Yeah. He was known as the, what was it? The sleeping prophet was one of his terms.
Okay, interesting.
He was called.
I'm remembering also how about the same time the Sleepy Time Tea cult, that their whole thing, the Urantia book, came from a medium, essentially a medium. We never really know exactly who the person was, but how that people would interpret like things that were being told to them by a sleeping person, and they considered that the words of the sleeping person to be the words of an alien race that would help them write the Urantia book. So anything like that, or is this guy his own thing?
Oh, well, he did tend to channel his quote unquote higher self while asleep. And his words were then recorded by his friend Al Lane and his wife Gertrude Evans, and later by his secretary. He would just kind of answer questions on all sorts of different topics, ranging from, healing and reincarnation to dreams to nutrition to Atlantis and the future. He also was a devout Christian, which is kind of interesting, because he also was just full blown writing about all, we'll get into some of it, but in a lot of ways he is considered by some, including an author Michael York, to be the true founder of the New Age movement. So he is like the Rosetta Stone of a lot of this kind of stuff, and he also is the earliest figure that I see linked to the Arcturians in most tellings of them.
So you're telling me that I can blame this guy for perennial sunning?
Yeah.
Okay,
you can.
Interesting.
So he supposedly he had readings. He would do readings all growing up and everything, but the first time they were actually recorded was in September of 1923.
It's perennium, not perennial.
It was perennium. I did know what you meant, and I guess I could have.
I am sorry. Some bees flew up into my brain and really jostled things around for a moment.
Just thought, taking in some sun once a year.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that's you don't die.
Your taint doesn't die after a year.
That's the life I've been living, working in tech. So
yeah. So he would do readings earlier than this, but he started getting published and everything in the early 1920s. The Birmingham Post-Herald is one of the first places that published some of his readings and his, I guess, prophecies, if you wanted to call it that. He supposedly had given, by this date, approximately 13 to 14,000 readings. Yeah, you can find kind of a compendium at this headquarters of the ARE Cayce headquarters in Virginia Beach. You can find 14,306 different readings if you want to do a very big deep dive into the works of Edgar Cayce.
Like records of it? Or,
yes.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay.
There's also a members only section that you can get a lot of them online, but I'm not a member. So
those are the mediumship readings after dark.
Yes.
Which I think we talked about this on the show, but I definitely learned about it on another podcast where a lot of the spiritualist, psychic medium phenomenon, they would often use that as a front for prostitution.
Yeah.
Which is something I'd really like to get into on this show sometime, is just
prostitution.
Yeah. I'd like to start prostituting, just generally speaking. No, it's it's just really crazy to me. Like, I don't know what it is about psychic mediums, but I'm fascinated by the idea,
Mhm.
and I'm fascinated by the like psychological thing going on there that gets people to believe it, while also at the same time, some of them are, getting like a fucking handy while they're channeling a ghost,
Look.
it's like, it's super weird, very weird stuff.
It's all about inducing states, whether that is euphoria or dream.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I can't get too into this, but I actually was watching recently a video of a guy who claims to channel an extraterrestrial being.
Interesting.
And it is just like, it is literally just like you go up there, you sit on a stage, you like pretend to go into a trance, and you like very mildly change your accent to something that sounds like Middle Eastern.
Yeah.
And everybody, and like they hold seminars that people pay for, and it's like, wow, I'm in the wrong career path.
You want to just become a charlatan?
I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess I see how easy it is to do, and I'm like, damn, that might as well.
Yeah.
Get a fucking deal with Gaia TV.
I almost did a thing that would involve talking about Gaia TV. I couldn't figure out the like full breadth of it. I might save it for the future, but I was researching a guy that talks about aliens being time travelers, and he is a psychiatrist that has a practice with some very bad Yelp reviews on it. So
Nice.
But yeah, along with being a prophet, Edgar Cayce also supposedly had some other abilities such as astral projection, mediumship, and he was able to view the Akashic records and see auras, which that will become very, very important going forward, because especially when we get into the Starseed version of this whole thing, auras will become very apparent, and also kind of with the Arcturians as well in general. So that is a big thing that will come up again.
Which, for those of you out there, if this is your first episode, the Starseeds are people who believe that they are potentially ascended consciousness, alien hybrids often.
So yeah, they basically believe that a lot of aliens are more of an energy-based being, as opposed to always having physical forms, and you are basically reincarnated version, or like almost like you are your light, your energy inside of you, basically what would be the soul in any other thing, but isn't always considered that in these circles, is actually that of an alien being, and you are put there on Earth to accomplish the task of bringing positive energies and light to the darkness of the world.
It is the New Age interpretation of
missionary work.
I was gonna say extraterrestrial visitation to planet Earth, but also that.
You're literally Starseeds are effectively New Age missionaries, and that may be a hot take, but
my god, no, that's not a hot take. That's perfect, is what that is. I am going to remember that henceforth. That is exactly what it is.
That is not me digging at anybody. I don't have a problem if you were a Starseed. I have no problem with you. I would honestly be very curious to talk to you, because it's a thing I find fascinating. But I also am a person that is raised on the structures of Christianity. That is a part of my world from birth that I like do not fully cop nowadays anymore. But it still is like the structure that I view the world and kind of like process things through. It's the filter through which I process the world in some ways. So when I see the Starseed stuff and all of their like, bringing light into the world and doing the works and like talking about all this stuff, it is just basically like you're a missionary that doesn't travel, and that's fine.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I forgot this is a primer episode, so we are supposed to be. I'm not supposed to just say Starseed and then not.
Yeah, I wanted to explain a little bit about what that meant.
Good catch. So Cayce started to, he'd get more and more into this kind of stuff as he got older. He had clients that included a couple of famous people such as Woodrow Wilson, Thomas Edison, Irving Berlin, and George Gershwin, two are composers. And then there's books written about him and everything. But his his reception is kind of varied with people, because there are some people that believe in it, but he also would talk a lot about the existence of Atlantis and a theory known as polygenism, which is uh, it basically is the theory that five different, or at least his version of it, is that five different human races evolved at the same time from various places, and they are the five races are white, black, red, brown, and yellow.
Oh, this
And
nonsense.
they were created separately
Oh
at
my
different parts of
God.
the earth, separately but simultaneously, and then evolved from that place into the modern humanity.
That is so, one, terrible.
Yeah.
And two, funny. That is, I do believe, it's funny that I made the connection to the Urantia book and the Sleepy Time Tea cult, because, which we did an episode on that a while ago. I do believe one of the things that like people point out when you read into the Urantia book that informed the Sleepy Time Tea people's like beliefs, it had a very similar vibe with the whole like, oh, the human race is actually 5 different races and it's based on this like color, and it's like, oh man, that's
because
weird.
the colored auras and everything. I feel like that is such like a thing that is specific and like so important in these circles. You get color is such like an important thing, and it's, you know, it's quote unquote not racist, but it is pretty racist. But it like the idea of like the red race was the people in Atlantis, and they were so fast to develop and they were so powerful and everything, and then oops, they got wiped out. And then the fact that we have the other races out and that we kind of came from are I'm having too many thoughts at once. The fact that in the Wikipedia portion of this there are hyperlinks only on white and black, but not to the other ones, is like darkly funny to me.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
funny how often this like new age like but this like new age hybrid with conspiracy and UFOs, how quickly that gets weird and racist.
Yeah.
It's very fast.
So he also thinks that there was this massive giant like solar crystal in the middle of Atlantis that was activated by the sun and powered all of Atlantis. He also predicted that in 1958, the U.S. would rediscover a death ray that had been used in Atlantis. Basically, he had a lot of stuff with Atlantis. He also incorrectly predicted the second coming of Christ in 1998. There was a bunch of predictions and prophecies that were missed, but people that believe in this guy will find ways to try to say how he was actually right. And yeah, like he was an oddball of his time that had some varying like silly and problematic concepts that he would push. But then one of the things that is most important to us in this topic is his works and his readings in regards to that of the Arcturians and aliens in general. So here's some stuff on Edgar Cayce and his writings about the aliens. So there's a book written about Edgar Cayce's life and work that is called There is a River by Thomas Sugrue. This is where a lot of the like info about Edgar Cayce and aliens comes from, I think. He believes that alien life has been visiting Earth from a planet called Arcturus, which is a real planet. And he believes that they're a fifth dimensional life form, and they're highly advanced both technologically and spiritually. He did write about like other races of aliens and kind of like classify these different things, different alien races a bit, mainly in terms of like dimensionalities. But he believes that he found ways to like communicate with the Arcturians only, not the other ones. And now many other people have claimed to channel. This is basically because he was a person that channeled a lot of things in his sleep, and like that was his whole deal. The concept of like channeling and communicating with the Arcturians in that way has become like the main thing when it comes to Arcturians in everything. Like every place that I was going, it was someone that was channeling them, and they just had like pages after pages of like parts 1 through 14 of me channeling about this one story about the Arcturians, and it's all just like fan fiction. It is ridiculous.
Is it did they like develop like a lore reason why the Arcturians are being channeled through sleeping specifically, or
not always sleeping? There's like other people have developed other methods for doing it, because the sleeping prophet was Edgar Cayce, and I guess they like a lot of people use like meditative states and stuff now. They use other methods. Like there's there are a lot of Starseed type sites and Starseed people that talk about, like, they'll offer you courses on how to channel the Arcturians and stuff. So if you want to learn, there's all sorts of ways that you can do that. But it's
a small fee.
Yeah, it's a racket. So yeah, there's also another book that will come up that gets brought up a lot in terms of kind of expanding on the lore of the lives of the Arcturians, is a book by Norma J. Milanovich, and the book is entitled "We the Arcturians: A True Experience," which it has to be true because she put a true experience in the title.
So you gotta assume.
And supposedly Edgar Cayce was quoted as saying, "Arcturus is the highest civilization in our galaxy." I saw multiple comments saying no, he actually said that Alpha Draconians were the most powerful race. I couldn't find where he said either one of those things explicitly, but that's the thing. So from their beginnings, the Arcturians have been linked to people channeling stuff and this kind of like new agey consciousness kind of vibe through Edgar Cayce and into a lot of other people. If you really want to look into a lot more modern channelings on the Arcturians that I'm not going to cover in any level of depth because it would just be me reading stories to people for hours. A place to start would be by looking up Steve Beckow or Susan Lai, or going to arcturiantools.com. So if you want to find out more, there's some places to start, but let's get into the actual alien race now.
Arcturian tools.
Yep.
Do you think the Arcturians appreciate being called tools? Because I wouldn't.
Yeah. No, I don't know if they would or not, but it is that website is true. Like we talk a lot about the web design of conspiracy theorists, and this is one of those that looks like they were trying to do like a like mid 90s futuristic aesthetic, where it's kind of like a lot of like almost a lot of secondary colors and a lot of like things that are supposed to look like they're metal.
Yes, I can picture it.
Like post neon Miami Vice, but cold steel silver,
Yes. You know how in the television show Better Call Saul, Saul Goodman kind of like peddles his skills as a lawyer specifically to the especially criminal.
Yep.
I'm feeling like I got to come up with a similar racket where I'm peddling my web skills to the conspiracy communities.
If you're okay with being paid in copies of their book, you might be able to pull that off.
I think,
but honestly, getting a booth of doing like web design, but being able to talk, being able to talk their language, but also being able to design their websites and just setting up a booth at a UFO convention would be a very interesting experiment.
These people are all making money off of like the books they're selling and the supplements they're peddling. Like I could I don't know. I think that
I'll just say that some of the websites that I was looking at here, I don't think they're making a lot of money.
Oh, wow.
These are borderline Angel Fire looking fucking websites that don't have a lot of well monetized ad placement or anything. So I don't know if that's really working well for him. But I guess before we get into the aliens proper, let's talk about the Arcturian star system, where they came from. And this is I believe this is an actual place. The Arcturian star system is a thing. Arcturus is an orange giant star approximately 37 light years from Earth. It is the brightest star in the northern celestial hemisphere. It is part of the Boats constellation. Boötes constellation, I guess. I forgot that I had a pronunciation guide right next to that. Boötes, which is also, it translates to herdsman, and yeah. So It comes from the ancient Greek words Arctus, meaning bear, and Oros, meaning guardian, hence herdsman.
Okay.
It is one of the kind of interesting thing here is that Arcturus achieved fame when the light of Arcturus was supposed to be the mechanism used to open the 1933 Chicago's World's Fair. I guess they would have like a star that would like the shining of that star would like open the thing or something. That was the star that was linked to the 1933 Chicago World's Fair.
Arcturus,
Yes.
so. Oh, okay.
It was chosen as it was thought that light from Arcturus had started its journey at about the time of the previous Chicago World's Fair in 1893.
Interesting. Okay.
So yeah. The when it comes to how like the aliens themselves view Arcturus, they refer to it as the teacher, as opposed to we think of it as part of the herdsman. But this is basically. They are an alien race that is all about healing and knowledge. They are very. They view everything as like learning and try to heal things and so that basically they are tailor made for the Starseed mind, wanting to just do good works and heal things and guide us on a good path, while also being observers that just want to consume knowledge and everything.
Space Brothers.
Basically, yes. These would fit into that very well.
The Space Brothers with a Christ-like twist.
You're not entirely wrong. So they consider Arcturus the sister planet to Earth, and they are the caretakers of the 5th dimensional frequency, and we are the caretakers of the 3rd dimensional reality. So we are the inner world reality. They're the quote unquote outer world reality, so to speak. So when we get into what the Arcturians actually like, the aliens look like, they basically just look like blue grays.
Okay, yeah. So if you picture the bulbous head of a gray alien from classic, pop culture,
yeah,
turn them blue, put a Star Trek onesie on them. That's what they are.
Yeah, we'll get more into their clothing here in a little bit. But their appearance, here's how their appearance is described. They are short in physical stature, about 3 or 4 feet tall and slender. Their skin has a slight tinge of pale greenish blue color, although in a lot of places you'll see them talked about as the color of their skin doesn't actually have a word in our language. It is not like an earthly color, which I think is actually like that's a really good shortcut for if you're making a new alien race. Just say, you can't perceive the color that they are.
It's a color out of space.
Yeah. But they have only 3 fingers, which I believe they call like
fingies.
No, they call them like not tools, but another word for like
grippers.
No, I think I might have it in here somewhere, but they don't call them fingers. They call them like some other thing. But they are also telepathic. And telekinetic, so they have the ability to move things with their mind, and they communicate in ways that are not like verbal communication most of the time. They have like almond-shaped eyes that are dark brown to black in order to shield them from the sun, which for some reason impacts their telepathic abilities. Whenever their eye, like I don't know if it's just through the eyes or if it's the sun, if being in our sun in general makes their telepathy less effective. That wasn't fully clarified to me anywhere I looked. But because of that, the way they see seeing through their eyes is secondary. It is so fucking hard to explain this. Most of okay, so I'll just say this in the way that it was explained on the internet, and then I'll try to quantify it. They see through their like telekinetic abilities. They also like hear through that. So like all of their sensory stuff isn't through their body. It's through their like telekinetic and their telepathic abilities. And there was a thing that kept being, I don't know if this is a translation thing, why it is this way, but a phrase that kept being used on multiple websites I tried to go through was that they feel through the back of their heads. What does that mean? I'm not 100% certain, but it seems like they basically are just saying that they have like sensitivity in the back of their heads.
a lot of it does, outside of they feel at the back of their heads, a lot of it just sounds like how psionics sort of function.
Yeah.
in
It's very
D&D.
just like their physical selves, like their physical senses are secondary to their telepathic senses, is basically the best way I can translate it.
Well, and a lot of these, like, especially when it comes to like the Starseed, like heightened consciousness stuff, it's like they also like sort of operate on another dimensional plane of existence that is more energy than it is like physical
Yep.
too. So like it's almost it almost sounds to me like having a physical body is like not their primary mode of existence.
Yes, that's you're pretty close there. So their eyes can also filter out lower vibrations and are capable of focusing inner and outer vision at the same time, which aids their telepathic abilities.
Sure.
So, yeah,
whatever
there
that
you go.
means.
They state that they do have a heart and that the heart holds the answers to the universal keys, and it contains the balancing of the positive and negative energies. They have a sense of hearing which transcends their telepathic ability, and they can hear outside the normal range of human hearing and also can hear from other dimensions. So
Okay.
take that with as you will.
I'm taking it very, very carefully right
Now,
now.
I will say that probably just is insinuating kind of what we were talking about, where they're fifth dimensional beings. So they're not talking about like a whole other. We're not talking about like the multiverse kind of thing here. We're talking about higher planes of existence that they can hear in, I think. So
Okay.
their ears work in the fifth dimension, I guess, is the easiest way of saying what I think that means. They also have, their brains are not actually what we would consider brains, but they're a complex system of fibers and neurons that control frequency patterns of their essence, which is another thing that just feels like gobbledygook to say that they're really smart and fifth dimensional. They can feel energy and process it into emotions, and they think 100 times faster than us.
Okay.
So that's just a big flex for them.
I'm a little hung up on
What they can process energy into emotions.
processing energy into emotions.
Basically, what I read, I kept coming across things that felt like the same core source being written and rewritten in different ways, and I read so many different versions of the same fucking thing. But it basically, the way that it seems is that they are beings that consume and subsist off of energy. So energy, the nebulous way that is talked about in New Age philosophies, is a thing that impacts them greatly. So they process. They're not. Basically, they're really cool and really good, and like they aren't like sad. They don't get like sad or upset the way that we do. It's really just like their emotions are like based on taking in a lot of energy and stuff.
Sure. I implore every new ager out there who's into this stuff to crack open a physics textbook, read the section on energy, get back to me.
Yeah.
That's all.
It's look, I'm not against charging a fucking stone here and there.
I use JO crystals.
I'm not
Don't
talking
give
about
me-
jerk off crystals.
Oh.
I'm just talking about stones in general. You always go to jerk off crystals, and there's a lot more out
It's
there
the
than just sex
only-
magic.
It's the only crystals I use personally.
They're like yeah. Anyway, it's just it's silly. So this whole thing, they do subsist mainly off energy, but they also supposedly feed on a quote unquote effervescent liquid that has vitalizing powers. This is a thing that I think comes out of one of their starships as they travel, because they do have starships, and we will get into that. There are multiple rooms on the starships that like do have different purposes, and I believe one of them creates this liquid that is this a thing they do actively consume sometimes, but mostly they just absorb energy, as far as I can tell. So
Okay.
yeah, they only sleep about once a week and for a very short time, and when they do this, they connect to higher dimensionalities, higher realms. They live between about 350 to 400 years. And their clothing when off the planet is functional. And yet again, it can transcend time and space and manifest in other dimensions. It is close-fitting. It is not necessary or desirable for their skin to breathe off planet. This clothing aids information processing. It doesn't have any openings in it, and it is put on by entering it via the 5th and 4th dimensions. This like helps them with their ability to process the outside world. I think a lot of this stuff is coming from the fact that supposedly they have trouble existing on Earth because of it being different dimensionally than what they're used to, and like the energies of our sun and stuff impact them, and like basically when they're not in Arcturus or something simulating that type of environment, they start to have troubles. And so I think that like a lot of this clothing and stuff and a lot of these things are trying to guard them against the harsh climate of the Earth whenever they visit, to help them deal with being there. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, as much sense as it can make. Yes.
Yeah. So when they are on their home planet, they wear free-flowing garments that are just used for basically signaling like their kind of system. They're like it's not a caste system, but like their like professions and their kind of place in society. Their clothing is not for warmth, as temperature is consistently just exactly what you want it to be. There were talks of them having, like, due to their advanced nature, they basically can tailor make the climate that they specifically exist in, like as like a thing that they can just do. So like they don't impact the weather of their planet, they impact their personal climate. Like just in their like they directly surrounding them.
Oh, okay. So if you went up to one of these guys and gave him like a hug, it would be like a nice balmy like 78 degrees.
Whatever they want it to be, yeah. Wherever they're most comfortable.
Okay.
That is as close as I can figure out what they mean when they talk about this stuff. So they more about their like emotional stuff. They're quote unquote more emotional than humans and are the most emotional planet in the universe, but they have mastered these emotions. So they see us as the weakest and least disciplined emotionally of any species they have come across.
Oh, what the hell?
So yeah, that seems kind of like just like a weird kind of dig they just shoved in there. I don't know, maybe they were getting annoyed with the person channeling them at that point, and they decided just to like be like, yeah, we kind of see you as like emotional weaklings.
It's meant to be a wake-up call for the Starseeds out there who want to elevate their consciousness to the next dimensional plane, you know?
Yeah. So supposedly their spiritual advancement allows them to never age, and they're also able to travel beyond time and space.
Hold up. They can never age, but their lifespan is 350 to 400 years old?
Yes. So I guess that just means that
physically they appear the same at all times?
I think so.
Oh, okay. Whatever.
They end their lives when their contract and their mission for that life expires.
Oh.
There's no illness or diseases on Arcturus because they have eradicated them hundreds of years ago, which is funny. Okay. This is a thing that I just thought was funny. That's may not be funny to anyone else, but I feel like whenever we're talking about these great galactic civilizations, it's like, oh, we eradicated that like thousands and thousands of years ago. Like we've evolved past the need for this thing. They eradicated diseases a couple hundred years ago, which is less than one of their lifespans.
That's true.
So that's like for them, I feel like that's relatively new, but any place that gets talked about, it's talked about this like, oh yeah, no, we took care of that a long time ago.
Yeah. But
it feels weird.
Yeah. Yeah, a little weird, especially when you're basically like crafting all these details to make it sound like you have this like crazy intergalactic lore.
Yeah.
You'd think like, they die by the time they're 400. So let's say they eradicated all diseases 500 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like kind of an easy, but then you also have the problem of like, the previous generation talks about the horror and madness that the Arcturians faced when they were just riddled with disease.
Yeah.
Prior to the panacea they were able to develop.
I don't know what to do with that because like this stuff is so. I mean, it's all Calvin ball. I know I use that a lot, but like this is all just like stuff that people have pieced together as they've been trying to make money off people for like the last, I don't know, 90 years. But this is just okay, fine. They eradicated disease. They live for 400 years.
I accept.
Their life ends when their mission ends. Like, fine. They've evolved to that point where they're effectively almost automatons. I don't know, but they also are members of the Galactic Federation, which they were accepted into that 3.75 million years ago, which was long before they eradicated disease.
And before that, they're spreading disease around all over the fucking galaxy.
Yeah. They exist on the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th density or dimension in a lot of places that they talk about it. That's the thing that like I would love to try to find a way to do just like a knockdown drag out like extensive thing on the whole extra dimensional being type stuff, but it's so broad and so just like
it's
so many. It would be so many episodes.
Insanely convoluted.
Like I tried. One of the things that I was trying to do was the I believe it's called the Great Galactic Wave, and that is so expansive. It is so fucking long and deep. It's like a theory of effectively when like this wave of higher consciousness energy like spreads across the galaxy, and it's supposed to happen in, I forget the year it was supposed to happen, and I didn't do the research for the episode fully yet. I just was trying to figure it out. But it's so like it's like books and books and books of stuff. It's
That's
so much.
insane because in concept it sounds like it's a short story that would be really, really funny actually if a wave of enlightenment passed through planet Earth.
Yeah. But no, it's pretty wild. So they're kind of a group mentality as a race. They don't have a like hive mind, but they have like, because they're all telepathic, they seem kind of connected, although they do all have individuality. They all have their own personalities and everything and can act independently, but they are connected. They're supposedly highly analytical, but their analyses are fully integrated with the highest order of intuition and emotionally enlightened love. That's a direct quote from one of the many descriptions that I went through.
I don't know what that means.
It basically just means that for people that think that evolving emotionally and going to a higher order of energy and vibration, that means that they're really good at that, and that's what makes them really good healers, because they experience emotionally enlightened love. And they think love is all you need. So they're very good at spiritual healing, and a lot of people that try to be new agey type healers will cite Arcturus as one of the places that they kind of gain that ability, because they're very gifted healers, but they use a different sort of techniques than those of the Andromedans. They often work together with the Syrians. Now that's the alien race, not people from the country of Syria.
Thank you for clarifying.
And together they have established what would be called an Arcturian Syrian matrix.
Arcturian candidate.
Yeah, which honestly just sounds like a global health network. Like it just sounds like a health insurance conglomerate or some shit. But it's So, but they're basically work together as healers in the galaxy in the positive realm, as we fight the wars of the spiritual balance between light and dark and good and evil. They do. Some people believe that they actually have bases for healing on places such as the moon and or Mars, along with all over the galaxy, but those are the ones specifically close to us. Now, I did find some places that claimed they had bases on Earth, specifically inside of some mountains, but I could not find any specific place that they have one. It was always just that, yeah, they have bases on the Earth too, and a lot of times they're underground or in mountains, and that's as far as it went. So supposedly they have, okay. So supposedly they have visited Earth. They've been around Earth, and in some cases, people believe that they were, that whole thing about the polygenism.
Yeah, I remember.
There are people that kind of link this to like Ancient Aliens type stuff of like the Arcturians were one of the races that was like involved in seeding the Earth.
Jesus. Okay.
But not in all of the like that is a thing that isn't everywhere. That's just in certain accountings of it. Um, leave it to just trying to come up with a unified primer on an alien race to come up with like 16 million different variations of beliefs about them.
Yeah.
So that is the one thing about this series that I'm trying to sort through.
There needs to be a limit on the number of players who can develop lore about aliens. Just be like, all right, we're cutting it off at 10 people contributing. Everybody else can go home and you can read it later. Like there needs to be a little bit more boundaries with this.
Yeah. So the Arcturian races are very private, and they don't really get involved a lot on Earth. They mainly just observe, and keep to themselves. But they do try to, especially in the past, like long ago, they have worked to resolve very serious conflicts in our area of the universe because they're so just like positive and light and good, and will help try to seed good stuff into our society and resolve conflicts. Their society is governed by elders who are revered for their advanced knowledge, wisdom, and extremely high vibrational frequencies, because they believe that the higher the vibrational frequency, the closer you are to the light, or whatever you want to call the end goal of this whole thing.
Good.
Yeah,
like, is that kind
the
of
light,
like
the spirit, God,
whatever you want it to be? Yeah.
This is one of those places that it's hard to look at this kind of belief system as non-deistic, like as not being like being built on the foundations of a in a lot of cases Abrahamistic, like Abrahamic being built on an Abraham religion,
Yeah.
where there is a God, and like the missionary good works bring you closer to him. That is very similar to how a lot of this stuff gets talked about. So the professions on the planet are just determined by by a person's vibrational frequency and the colors in your aura. They give an example of, if you were taking care of children, you must have violet as the predominant color in your aura. And you also have to be one of the wiser souls, because only the wisest souls are allowed to associate with the young. And anyone giving birth, it's not a it's not something anyone can do. It's a big honor. People are screened and tested in terms of their auric and vibrational frequencies. So their auras and their vibrational frequencies. And when you're chosen by the elders to give birth to an Arcturian child, you go through this process where you're raised to the 7th dimensional frequency for the birthing process, which is the frequency of an ascended master, which is a big deal. And reproduction is an honor, and it's one of the most highly regarded professions. You then go through this like mind link between the male and female energies until they're perfectly balanced. And then through this process, some sort of electron force flows through the two beings, and it creates another being that is a replica of the link of those two different beings. So you birth a mind baby.
Okay.
It then is taken to a special room that emanates the proper vibrational frequencies until it is ready for integration into a family unit in Arcturus.
That is basically, so they basically have like a sex lottery.
Kind of, yeah. Like it's basically it honestly, you could liken this into drift compatibility in Pacific Rim. Basically, instead of piloting a big mech, you create a vibrational baby.
Okay. Now here's an issue. First of all, I don't even feel like I need to unpack some of the fascistic undertones of this idea.
What, the eugenic kind of undertone of all of this?
But also, alien, Arcturian 1 over here is chosen. Oh, they're violet. They're special. They have a high vibrational energy. They've been chosen to reproduce, to have this 7th dimensional, sex situation. But what if Alien 2? What if Arcturian number 2 really wants to get it wet and isn't allowed to. What then? Do they do anything for pleasure, or is
Here's
it all?
the thing. I've looked at a lot of different alien races, and there are a couple of them that will talk about sex and genitalia. This one, I could not find a single thing about an
bummer.
Arcturian dick.
I'm guessing it's because they're such high vibrational entities that it's purely like conceptual. It's like it's all just like energy, vibration, electrons, bullshit, garbage. It basically make the idea of sex with aliens very boring.
Yeah, it's like it's very Demolition Man. It's very the sex happens in a virtual realm and isn't penetrative.
Sad.
Yeah. So there you go. Yeah. So they have been around on Earth since the very beginning. They have bases all over the place. They can manifest physically, but otherwise they exist in an etheric state. They did send a probe here a long time ago, and that may or may not be the Black Knight satellite in the lore of the Arcturian.
That's a real satellite that's orbiting Earth.
Yes. We did an episode on it very, very, very early.
Forever ago.
Yeah. But that might be an Arcturian probe from millions of years ago. Yeah, let's see. This is a fucking weird way of. So basically, when they first came into our solar system, they did an experiment on Mars, where they basically were trying to deal with, like, start to seed life on Mars. But because of the 40,000 year warm cycle of Mars, it kind of screwed up their whole thing. The whole colony, it just kind of entirely went wrong. So they then found Earth, and they started a secondary experiment there, and that's part of the seeding of humanity, I guess. Like they basically had a one experiment and one colony on Mars that just got fucked up and went off the rails and just did not go according to plan. And then when they tried again, we were the second experiment of the Arcturians in this solar system, and that led to some of the works on our planet. So supposedly they have tried to contact our governments, but they have turned all of them down in favor of the treaties we have with the Greys and the Reptilians, I believe, are the people that we have treaties with, but the Arcturians can't get in there. There is a bunch of stuff about their spaceships. One of the biggest one is a starship Athena, which is like, it gets talked about a lot because it's the one that is like has come around our planet the most. It's charged by crystals that are charged by the Great Central Sun, aka the star at the center of our universe. They don't use any computers because they long outgrew the need for them. But they have this big planet, this big spaceship that has these 35 different rooms, which I have some functions of them, but I'm not going to get into all of them here. But the one that is kind of interesting is the magnificent chamber for manifestation. It's stated to be the most advanced portion of the ship. It's designed to complement and support the rearrangement of the molecular structure of the being's central nervous system to experience fifth dimensional frequencies and higher. It is said to be more than joy and happiness, more than telepathy and being in the etheric form. It is the experience of the all. So basically, this is the room that you go into to ascend your consciousness and get very fucking high, as far as I can tell.
Okay.
But in a spiritual way, not in a it's to experience the totality of being, to experience like everything on a galactic consciousness level. And this is just a thing they have in their starships for some reason.
And they just like do it for fun?
They don't tell you what it's for. They also have like a learning facility with a complete data bank that reveals material on every aspect of life on Earth. They have like places that give that like fluid that they subsist on. There's just like a bunch of different places. It's not really worth getting into because I want to get into some Starseed stuff and not make this episode crazy long. But if you want to learn more about Arcturian starships, you can find that stuff out there, and I can post some links. So let's get into Starseed stuff, if you don't mind. Now, um, a lot of the stuff is similar. Like they come from the planet Arcturus. They exist on the higher dimensions. The appearance is basically the same, except there's also a couple different subsections of Arcturians. There's like the blue Arcturians are the ones that I was talking about earlier. But there's also the like sixth dimensional Arcturians who are like 7 feet tall, white glowing figures that may or may not be what we think of as tall whites.
Like the Nordic aliens?
Yeah, I think so. Like they're basically, this is a thing that's not everywhere. This is coming from some writings on the Arcturian alien race by Michelle Walling, who comes up a lot in these kinds of things in terms of like the Starseed side of these things. I believe she is a Starseed channeler, if I remember correctly. So they have the fourth dimensional and then the sixth dimensional, and the sixth dimensional ones, hey, are the white ones. Yeah. Now they have all of the stuff we've already talked about. The higher senses, they're better evolved. They can travel through space and time kind of at will. They have all of this crazy stuff. But then when it comes to Starseeds, I'll just read this from Michelle Walling. There are many million Arcturian souls born on Earth, and a good portion are among the younger generation. It is felt that these starseeds can play an important role as ambassadors to the neighboring 4D Arcturians and also elevate humanity's capabilities in their areas of expertise. These starseeds will be the planners and builders of a new society through their innovations. They not only see beyond the present structures and systems, but they can also add an understanding of the frequencies inherent in the form. They can be cutting-edge mathematicians, physicists, geometry artists, architects, community planners, system designers, technology wizards, musicians that have a talent for precise uses of tone for effect, and energy healers that use geometry and sound to heal specific organs and mental states. These souls like nothing more than to experiment and see their ideas in action.
Wow, and this is the younger generation or on planet Earth?
I guess, yeah.
These are the builders of the next society to come. Well, this is why it's so important that everybody has to get out there and vote.
Yeah, especially the young people.
Yeah.
Especially the musicians that have a talent for precise use of tones for effect, which basically just makes me imagine someone with a really big pedal board. But I don't know if that's what they mean, but that's the way it feels. So Terra Malos are probably Starseeds. So then I have some stuff from a website called which one? Asking Angels. That is, are you an Arcturian Starseed?
Okay. I've always wanted to ask an angel.
Yeah. Well, you may or may not love.
What was it like to? Did you fall from heaven? Because you're an angel.
So there's a lot of stuff about Arcturians are full of life, are not shy, which actually goes against what was read earlier. But when it comes to receiving attentions, they're planners and work hard to fulfill their plans. It is said that some starseeds are not good at expressing emotions except for anger.
What?
However, they may fall into a pattern of being angry simply to avoid showing other more real emotions. So when one is in a relationship with one, it is necessary to be patient. There's stuff about the Arcturian High Council of Elders that just basically is talking about some of the stuff that we talked about earlier with Arcturian starships and stuff. But then they get into this person's specific relationship with Arcturians and their overall opinion of Arcturians, in which case I just want to read a bit here. So there's stuff about like hybrids. Hybrids are a thing in Starseed lore, which I don't have a full grasp of, but it really seems like people who don't fully vibe with one alien race and see themselves as kind of a mixture of multiple, which is like a thing that I don't have a lot of information on. But this is... let me just read this. If you ever get offended by something they say, I bet you will, keep going back for more, because assuredly they didn't actually mean for you to be offended. They are polite, excited beings who think carefully about what they say and are really into this Earth stuff. Think of Sheldon Cooper and just try to hang in there. There's something cute about them, too.
No.
I won't quite say childlike, but flavorings of that. They strike me as a little impish. Yep, they remind me of really smart imps, whatever those might be. And if they go on and on about their intelligence, just bite your tongue, because they are probably right about it. I know, I said it. But once you get used to their ways, they won't let you down. They're always happy and have a nice energy. Look at how happy Sheldon is when no one is pissing him off. Almost childlike, but not at all, really.
This...
Which really makes me
Jesus,
wonder,
man.
this is, I hope this is not bad of me to say, but it makes me wonder if in the Starseed lore, Arcturians are autism coded.
Oh man, that's wow. I mean, that can't be intentional by the kinds of people who like develop these ideas. I honestly, it reads to me like, I don't know. It's almost like developing your own like intergalactic celestial higher dimension horoscope. Like it is what it sort of sounds like to me. Like, I don't know. It's I don't know, but maybe
It's really weird just looking at, because like there's I've read a lot of Starseed stuff, and it's this is one of the more out there ones when it comes to like just seeming like someone is writing
fan
specifically
fiction?
about themselves. Like
Yeah,
they're just
yeah.
just describing their personal experience and seeing it through this lens, as opposed to like trying to create some framework for other people. Like this feels less like someone trying to create a thing that they can sell books about, and more like someone is trying to like
exercise themselves like
make sense of the way they process the world. And it's interesting. There's one other name that came up a lot when I was doing research on the Starseed side of things in terms of like channeling Arcturians, and that's one Daniel Scranton, who you'll see a lot. He has a website about a lot of this stuff too. But there was one thing that I thought was really funny is there was an article that I found that is the 90 Arcturian Council through Daniel Scranton, one ET being to unite the human race, which is basically Daniel Scranton channeling Arcturians to come up with the plot of Watchmen.
Where, better than going Sheldon mode.
Yeah, because he's basically just saying, you're not ready for a full showing of like UFO crafts coming down to the Earth. That would be too much. But one alien being would unite the entire race and remind everyone that we're all the human race. We're all one race, the human race. You know, that old
Also,
chestnut. And literally, that is Ozymandias' plot in fucking Watchmen.
It also makes me think of
this was written in October of 2022, by the way.
Okay, so this is not an older.
No.
It also reminds me of Stranger in a Strange Land a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, which a lot of new age alien stuff of this nature, Starseed, is very reminiscent.
Yep.
Of Stranger in a Strange Land. I don't know, man. But I get your point with Watchmen. It really is just Ozymandias.
He just rewrote Ozymandias' plot. Yeah. So that's kind of the wrap up here. So I think that leads us to our big question. If you're ready.
I'm ready. I have a big answer, I hope.
God, I hope so. So if you were able to channel one alien race and get some perk, some sort of ability from it, what alien race would you want to channel, and what would you get from it?
Wow, that is really tough.
Yeah.
I think that the first thing that comes to my mind, though, is an Alpha Draconian. Mainly because, okay, honestly, I said I had a big answer.
Yeah.
That was a lie. Because once you presented the question, I realized, oh no, the answer is very simple, very obvious to me. I want an Alpha Draconian sex claw.
Okay.
Because if you remember,
fucking sex claw.
If you remember, the Alpha Draconians have a claw that they use for mating.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. I don't know if they're like pulling on
mating
hair
battle. Like it's fucking.
Yeah,
you go into the fucking sex trenches and fight.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what that's about, but I can only see upside with having a sex claw.
Yeah, that's fair.
To work with. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I do. Yeah.
It's probably a little just an extra bit of fun. Because like, what other? Well, okay, I was about to say, what other fucking powers can I get from these aliens? But maybe you have a better answer.
I mean,
than
Alpha
me.
Draconians, you get big fucking wings. Like those
That's
things
true,
are
but
big fuckers.
Sex Claw.
Yeah. I honestly, I'm going to go ahead and stick with the Arcturians in this one because, frankly, I want to know what being able to channel energy into emotions feels like.
Yeah.
That is a thing that is just like, I read that 2 days ago, and it's just been like rattling in the back of my brain, trying to, it's like saying, oh yeah, I'm trying to process food into sound. And it's like, I get that that's basically synesthesia, and maybe that's all this is, but it feels like, an X-Men power. It feels like someone is writing they're writing a whole new era of like Generation X, and they're putting like a bunch of new mutants, and because all of the easy powers have been taken, you get people like weird, Maggot and fucking like you get like the weird mutants that you can't, that have to like come up with crazy ways of like transmuting shit. And so that would be like, I just want to know what that is. I want to know how that feels and what that does, because like, does that let me like read something from the energy, or do I just like take in input and just get really sad?
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean?
You just like pass through certain energies and just suddenly you're taken by a mood.
I was walking down the buffet and went from like the chilled salad section to like the meats and like the heat lamps, and just instantly went into an ennui. Like,
and but okay, to be fair though, that is kind of what the experience of doing that is like in real life without having to transmute it. I do
tend to feel kind of lonely at a Golden Corral.
Yes.
So
definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that would be mainly just out of curiosity. I want to know what the fuck that is. And hey, if you're a starseed or a light wielder and can explain it to me without me taking this power from the Arcturians, then feel free to email us at itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. So let's go and take care of some business. Follow the podcast. You can follow us many places, first of which being Twitter at IGW Podcast.
You can follow us on Facebook.com/itgetsweirdpodcast.
And we're on all your favorite podcatchers, from Stitcher to Google Play to Apple Podcasts to Spotify. If you listen to podcasts somewhere, look up It Gets Weird and we're probably there.
itgetsweirdpodcast@gmail.com. What would you do with a sex claw? Patreon.com/itgetsweird. We have a $2 tier and a $5 tier. At the $2 tier, we're doing It Gets Weird TV. You get an episode every other week. We're watching weird television on there. Come check it out. At the $5 tier, you have access to It Gets Weird TV plus another show that we do on the off weeks of It Gets Weird TV. So you're getting bonus content every single week on your Patreon feed at the $5 tier. Whether you donate to the $2 tier or the $5 tier, you get access to our main show episodes 2 days early on Friday instead of Sunday. You get access to the Discord where we're hanging out, and you get the satisfaction of supporting your favorite weird podcast. We also have a $1 tier, which is not, you don't get anything out of it. You're just saying, hey, I like your show. Thanks for doing what you do. Here's a tip. If you can't donate, please tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your congressman all about It Gets Weird Podcast.
Thank you all for listening and supporting the show. I've been Nile.
And I'm Kyle, signing out.
Peace.